Hey people, this goes out to my buddy Gary. He's having a hard time believing that Jesus died on the cross for his sin. And I was in the same place, but I found a little more information in a book that had nothing to do with the Bible. It's this Oran Universal Dictionary. I'll leave the link down below. Written in 1728, and they kind of left it out, and they put it in this addenda on page 1061. They add it on the end. To understand all these writings, you kind of have to understand the rebus that they were written in, and you have to understand it pretty well to know when it's not true, when it's a lie. You have to understand the colors, all the symbolism. You have to count the checkers on the alligator's back. You have to understand the palm language. You have to know when you see a different color, is it talking about a different subject, or is somebody trying to throw you off? So this addenda usually comes from a second printing when they wanted to add something that they forgot to put in there before. And you scroll on down here to dying. If you want to know what it's about dying on the cross, you have to understand what they mean about dying. So it's the art of staining clothes. It's the art of permanently coloring natural substances with natural substances, and it can be done hot or cold. And dyeing hot would be called the thermobaffin, and this dyeing cold would be called sucrobaffin, and that comes from 1697 book Vocation of Tinctures. Tinctures, that would be like a salve that you apply on the outside that works its way in the pores. So it's of the great antiquity. It's in traces of the oldest sacred as well as profane writers. The honor of the invention is attributed to the Tyrrhenians, though what lessens the merit of it is said to have owed its rise to chance from the juices of fruits and leaves, etc., accidentally crushed, supposed to have furnished the first hint. But Pliny assures us that even in his time the Gauls made use of no other dyes. But I'm going to say it again, Pliny was the name of a book. There was no Pliny. Pliny was written by Maria the Jewess. She wrote 17 known books on alchemy. She was the greatest alchemist ever. That would be the same Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary the hag. Colored earths and minerals gave the next dyeing materials, but purple animal juice found in the shellfish called the murex or the conchlium or the purpura seems from history to have been prior to any of them. This indeed was reserved for the use of the kings and princes. Private persons was forbidden. Not even the least scrap. The discovery of tinging quality was said to have been taken from a dog having caught the purple fish among the rocks, eaten it up and stained his mouth with the precious liquor. It struck the fancy of a Tyrrhenian nymph who cut off her lover Hercules till he had brought her a pint of that purple drink. So you can see that come from the book of Pliny Natural History, book 22. And I'm going to tell you that that book of natural history, that's a companion book that goes with the Bible, and all the your chapter numbers, be chapter to chapter, have all the secrets in it. So this is that murex snail, and I imagine a dog would have a hard time grabbing hold of that without hands. And this product that comes out of it, this purple dye, is organic compound of bromine, the 6,6 dye bromindigo Tyrrhenian purple dye, and it's used in a predatory behavior to sedate its prey, so it must be super potent because he's spraying it under the ocean to sedate his prey. So it's the most valuable substance on earth. 12,000 snails will bring you 1.4 grams So it must be a pretty powerful drug. And it just so happens that the only dog of antiquity that had hands that could have dealt with this was a master dyer. That's all he dealt with, was the dyeing. He was the Egyptian god of embalming, and he was also Tubal-Cain. That's one of the gods of the Masons, one of the more important people they worship. After the Phoenicians, the Sardinians came the greatest perfection in the dyeing art, in so much that Bama Zardinicon, Sardinian dye, passed into a proverb along the Greeks. So that gives us a good clue at that Bama Zardinicon, meaning Sardinian dye, that would mean the Bama means dye. So I found this on Google Books, and for some reason they wanted to censor this cover. But it's a huge book, and it gives excuses of why they left the words out of the Bible. And I found this Bama here. The majority of the book is giving excuses for it. So it kind of hints here that it would mean the light of day. Well, you see it means to give light to all on this Bama Garda. And then back on this Daga Ublin, it would mean in the evil of the day. So it probably means something about daylight. And we can see on the bottom there that in Bama was Maria Magdalene. We can also see this book confirms my beliefs about that AT that was left out all the time, meaning learn the writings, knowledge of the writings. You see here they say it means of which anything is heard or learned or received. And it's usually front all the proper names in the Bible. So this is all confirmed by several other writers. And Nura, I believe that's Italy, he supported the pretensions of his country against this innovation. He wasn't liking it. So till the time of Alexander, we find no other sort of dye in use but the purple and scarlet. And it was under successors, that monarch, that the Greeks applied themselves to the other colors and invented, or at least perfected, blue, yellow, green, the cross. So the purple was long lost, and the French mastered the other colors and deforested all their neighbors. And that would be where Levi Strauss come from denims. That's where your denim comes from. And the Romans, the dye houses were called the Baphia, were all under the direction of Cum Sacrum Largitorum. That's like FDA. The dyers in London make the 13th company of the city, incorporated under Henry VI, consisted of a master, a warden, and a livery. And at Paris and most of the great cities in France, the dyers are divided into 3 companies, those of the Great Dye, the Gare, the Grand, and Bon Tient, who are only to use the best ingredients. The dyers of a lesser dye are allowed to use inferior sorts of drugs. It seems there's a tradition among dyers that Jesus Christ was of their profession, which we also find delivered in the Gospel of the Infancy of Jesus. And the Persian dyers have chosen Jesus for the patron saint of their art. And so much as among them a dye house is called Christ's shop. So the terms that the dyers use for their ingredients is liquors and drugs. And their recipe is the same as my ayahuasca recipe. I just traded the brand for this mimosa root. I'm pretty sure it's the same one that they call the Brazilian dye. So we got a list of coloring and non-coloring ingredients, and they do admit that the water a proper menstruum to extract the tingent particles of certain hard drugs, and it's to serve as a vernacular between the cloth and the color, as clammy oils and gum waters do in painting. Alum being a substance whose alkylated particles dissolved with hot liquors will enter the pores. And that's what was going on with these old priests. That's why they all shaved their head. They were mixing up a cross and applying it to their head. We can see here, thirdly, the Uranus salts and alkalis advance, or at least do not hurt the colors of the juices. Thus, the Uranus spirits and alkalis make a yellow infusion in the madder roots and makes the red of Brazilian wood purplish. That's another clue that that Brazilian would be the mimosa dye. So of most of these ingredients, some account may be found under the respective articles in the course of this book, but with regard to their use and effect in dyeing, it would be necessary to consider them more particularly and to bring together in one view. That means don't try this at home. The advancement of dyeing is the basis of a just history of dyeing. Must be a theory of light and colors. See light. So that would coincide with that word Bama that we found earlier that meant light. So in the requisites in dyeing, there's three things demanded by the Greek chemists for a good dye. And that's aereosis, that's opening or rarefying of the body to be dyed, the baffin, or the tincture, the dye of itself, and the gattochin, or by the Romans called the alligato. And this would be the seal of Denim's France here. So this is also the quick path to enlightenment in spiritual alchemy. If you haven't seen other movies, this mimosa has got the highest content of DMT as anything on the planet. And if you don't know what DMT is, it's the most potent drug on the planet. It'll make any atheist talk to God. It's called the spirit molecule. It's the most powerful psychedelic drug. It can be inhaled, injected, ingested. And all you need to extract it is 2 hippies, 2 pots, and 1 t-shirt. And you just boil it down. You pour it through a strainer. Most hippies don't have a strainer, so they put their shirt on top of the other pot and wring it out. And that's where your beginning tie-dyes come from. And the only reason you need 2 hippies is because usually only one of them has a shirt, and probably each one of them have 1 pot apiece. The Chinese are said to practice the dyeing of tea, which is the same thing. It's just real easy. Just dipping your tea bag in some boiling water. And remember that. We'll see that in Numbers, in the book of Numbers. Peruvian women would dye their old gray hair black by soaking it in the boiling tincture. And Strabo and Pliny and others were much more commodious and say that they could change the color of the hair by drinking it. But they weren't trying to be funny. When you drink this, you will lose all stress, and that would damn sure help your gray hairs. So this book of Pliny, it means the pitcher binds to make seed work, and the way you used it, it's numbered number for number with the Bible. So this natural history 135, that's going to be Numbers 135. So this book of Pliny, Natural History, it was like an encyclopedia, and it had pictures of all the plants and animals and stars, and just told about everything. And so it's telling you here it looks like pachyderm. It was probably on the page of the thick-skinned animals. The picture after through to work life from. To bind the math, from the seed to consume life, to consume the seed works from, and the fire binds to consume the work from. It's telling you what plants and what heats, how to extract it. To learn the bind picture, to connect from the seal work of Pliny. That P down there means the picture bind. So I found this on Google Books. It's through the various readings of Bama Sardinicon or Tinctura Sardinica or the Dyes of Sardinia. And it come right out and tell me that this Sardinia is the metropolitan Lucifer. It give you hallucinations. It give me a hint on where to find this picture bind connected rebus codices. And it come right out and told me the Hebrew word, the XUR. So it comes up a couple times in the Bible, but then it's unloaded here in Numbers. And you can see this this Numbers is Bamidbar. And the first time it comes up in Numbers 1:1 here, it means the wilderness. And you see that's the same spelling for the chapter of Numbers. It means the wilderness, or is what they're giving it. But it means in the waters through in to begin. And so these first 5 lines here are telling you how to use the book the same as Genesis started. And it says, way dauber, to make through the house to begin, make through in to begin, the Yahweh, to make the connected life, Al, to learn the bind of Moshe, from to consume life in the waters through the house to begin, and the Numbers. So those first 4 lines are instructions to use this book of Numbers, and then 5 starts. It says Vael, the connect to learn the spirit connected writings, Shemut, where it says the names of the handsome. They give the meaning handsome as man, but it's the knowledge of the seed to consume the works from. And then Ashar, learn to consume first, to make the tears through, or to make see from through. The At-Chem, to learn the writings of Chem, or to learn the writings of the folded waters, of the bind of Reuben, to bind the first knowledge connected in the seed elixirs. You see that XUR on the end of there. The knowledge binds to make the plants connected first, to make the elixirs in the seeds of the shades, or the fires through the work. That's the shades, to learn the connection to begin. And that's the shade chart, to look at the color shades to see which one you're working with. And you look over at the end of line 6, and it says, in the seed work of the plants connected first, to make the shade, to make the fires through work. And that's what happens when the light shines through something, it leaves shade. That's what it means, the shade, the colors of the shade chart. Now, as for dying for your sin, it's pretty clear in plain English that in the Bible, sin means a stain. It means unclean. It stains your clothes. And that'd be a good reason to tie-dye your shirt so you couldn't see the stains on it. The white garment is a symbol of purity, and the stain of the original sin is no longer. The soul is wiped clean. Water also washes away the sins. In the light, the final symbol of baptism. You remember that 4th stage of a good stain was the lumen, the light, the brightness. So we was all born in original sin. We were born to make a mess, and we don't throw the baby out with the wash water just because it made a mess. You love the baby and hate the sin, hate the stain. And it used to be a bigger job to do the laundry. You know, you used to have to kill a pig and boil the lard down, and you had to seep the lye out of yesterday's ashes and make your soap. And all the old biddies, it was back-breaking work, and they would go out and they'd try to have a good time while doing it, and they would talk about the terrible sins that them kids must have committed to put them sins on them clothes like that. When Adam and Eve sinned, God made them fresh new white clothes and sent them out to play again. You just hate the sin. Don't throw the baby out with the water. So what I found real strange while doing all this investigating is, out of all the artwork in Egypt and all the work being done and all the jobs and everybody's always wearing clean white clothes, I can't find any laundry going over there in Egypt. I guess they was all pure in Egypt and nobody ever sinned there. But that's the way this alchemy is. Sometimes what you're looking for is what's not there. And you look at a picture and you know what's supposed to be in that picture. And if it's not there, that's the clue that you're looking for. So I want to thank my buddy Gary for letting me use his high school prom picture here. And Gary's a pretty swift guy. He's pretty sharp. He's one of the smartest people I know. And I love Gary. Thanks, man. All right. Good day, folks. God is love. God is light. God is knowledge.